Hello and welcome to day 39 of my 365-day programming journey. Today comes with a little bit of a story. So I used to work on a contract job with Microsoft under the company Experis, and we were QA analysts at the time, and that mostly just means documenting any bugs that we find in games. I'm not going to go too into depth about the process of the job, but one of the things we also did was create tools to kind of assist with our job. So that meant we were writing programs, but we weren't really allowed to use Visual Studio or anything like that at first because the company that we were under, Experis, was not sure of what permissions we had. So everything we wrote was in Batch, which, you could do dangerous stuff with Batch anyways, deleting important files and whatnot. But so I didn't understand the logic and the rule set there. But I did spend a lot of time writing in Batch, which is a pretty primitive language, I guess is the way to say it. You can do a lot of interesting things with it. I made a two-way messaging system that could communicate between multiple computers on the same network. I made a utility program for work where you basically put in all the information you need for the file and it spits out everything else, and it automatically moves it across the network to where it needs to go, and it kind of cut down a 5-ish minute process down to about 30 seconds, which was really nice. And I also made games with it. I made a little RPG. I've made blackjack, some other little card games in it, and I spent a lot of time just goofing around with Batch. And one of the things that was part of the RPG things is creating game fields, and I just liked seeing how things was output to the Batch screen, and making user interfaces and stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to revisit that with Python, not in any kind of meaningful or extensive way, because these were thousands of lines of Batch code that I spent many days and many undocumented lunch breaks on. I don't know if I was supposed to be spending that much time on it, but this is a little bit of a diet version of that. So I made a game field here. So there's actually no imports this time, but we do have our initializing variables for our position, our boundaries, and our inputs. We have a function for drawing our board, for changing our position, and clamping our value. Now, with a lot of these Python videos, I kind of start way down here after all the functions. And that's because these are called. These aren't run on startup. Down here, out of functions and out of variables are initialized, but down here is really where the code gets run. So while true, now we're actually doing stuff. We're calling for input, and then we're going through this loop, and then we're actually calling into our functions. So if you ever wondered why I'm doing that, that's kind of the reason. So let's work through it. So of course, while true, and we're getting input from the user, and then we're going through our inputs. So this is just checking every single input that we have here. We're also lowering it, so it's so if we're holding shift and hit W, it still counts. Not that you really would in this kind of situation, but just in case. And then we are passing that value, these T1 and T2, which is these coordinates here. So it's not going to affect the horizontal, but it's going to affect the vertical. And then we're passing in our position, which is basically just our player position, into this change position. So what this is doing is it's increasing the value, and then it's clamping it to the boundaries. So it's just, if it's greater than the boundaries, return the boundary limits. If it's less, return the minimum. Otherwise, just return the value back because it's within the bounds. Then we're printing the position just so we know where the player's at, and then drawing the board. The board's pretty simple. It just starts as an empty string. We take half of the bounds because otherwise it just takes up too much space vertically. And then we're going through this while loop. We're setting for each row, so we're setting out here, our Y position, because it doesn't need to cycle through every Y coordinate. It just needs to go up 10 times. But we need to cycle through every horizontal coordinate, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And then we'll go back to the Y and increase it. So while X is in bounds, we're going to check if it's in the player position, and if it is, we're going to give it this little @ symbol. We could define these outside of here up in our variables, but I just decided to put it here. Otherwise, we're going to give it a generic board icon. Actually, I'm going to change this because the hashtag or the octothorpe just didn't look very well. So I'm going to use this little underscore symbol here. Then we're going to increase the X variable, and then we're going to add a new line to it at the end of it. So we've run out of our horizontal spaces, so we just need to go to the next line, increase it, and then we're going to print out our board. So let's see what that looks like. Goodness, I like winded myself trying to get that all out in one breath, basically. If I hit W, you'll notice that our character is going up, and I do have to hit enter every time. That's just how input works. There are workarounds, of course, but you know, we're just working with what we got. So let's bring this up a little bit. So I can go left. Oh, yeah, hold on. Let me get it like this. And then bring this up. There we go. I'll just zoom in and post. There we go. We got a little guy that goes around. He won't exit the boundaries. And we can go down. There is a little bit of an issue with the Y boundaries. For some reason, he doesn't go all the way down, but that's fine. It's not perfect. And I just realized my keyboard is probably super loud. But yeah, there we go. Nothing too crazy. It's pretty simple. But yeah, just a little bit thing, glimpse into a way I used to spend my time on an old job. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.